Welcome to How to Teach Right Start Math, Level C. My name is E. Pullett, and we'll be going through this together today. Okay, first some webinar information. If everybody can make sure their sound is muted. And if you have any questions, just use the chat box. Okay, placement guidelines. Who belongs in Level C? Okay, first, if your child knows their addition facts to 18, and they can add two-digit numbers with carrying, then we're going into Level C. Okay, so this is what we're looking for. And one note on the addition facts is, again, that they're answering within 2 to 3 seconds. That there's a concept of the addition, they understand what they're doing. Same thing with the two-digit numbers with carrying, they understand what they're doing. Now, if you're getting blank stares or they're having to start all the way back at 1 and counting every single number, then that may be where we want to step back into Level B. So Level B, here, your addition facts are pretty shaky. And again, that 2 to 3 second rule for knowing your math facts, you're really getting, they understand their facts through 10, but past that, they're just really, they need a better foundation. That's where you're going to want to be going into B. Again, anything that involves carrying and that understanding of place value, if that's still something they're confused on, then we're going to want to go into Level B. Okay, so what if you feel like, okay, they do know their addition facts to 18. They are good with this. How do I know if Level C is not the right level for them? Well, if they already know how to subtract 4-digit numbers or 2-digit, with borrowing, and they know their multiplication facts through the 5s, then this is where you're going to want to go on to Level D. Okay, so what if I have an older child and I'm putting them in Level C? Are we behind? The first thing with math is that you can't build on what your child doesn't know. We really need to teach to the child's level. So even if their grade level is, 5th grade, if their math level is 3rd grade, that's what we need to teach at. Okay, so let's map this out. Let's take a 10-year-old who we look at it, they're a 4th grader, but it seems like Level C is the perfect fit for them. Okay, so then next year for 5th grade, they go into Level D. 6th grade would be Level E. 7th grade would be Level F. 8th grade, they do Level G. And then they'd start algebra in 9th grade. We're right on level. We're right on level. Okay, now what about if we have a 12-year-old who just different circumstances, it really seems like Level C is where they need to be. Then 7th grade Level D, 8th E, 9th F, and you're starting, go ahead and skip G at this point because we want to get them into algebra, 10th grade, and so they're only a year behind. So the big thing is if our arithmetic is shaky, then everything after that is going to be confusing and going to be a big mess. And so we really do want to teach where they're at and go ahead and start building a foundation that they can build on. Okay, so now what do they need to do Level C? Okay, you need your book bundle. This is going to be your lesson book and worksheets and your math set. If you used Right Start last year, then you're just going to reuse the same math set. Otherwise, this is the math set you'll need, and you'll use it for this child and all your children from Level C all the way on through Level F. And so in here you have your card game books, your decks of cards, your abacus, fraction charts, your geometry tools, measuring tools, drawing set, and everything else. Okay, here's the objective sheet. This is in the beginning of your lesson book. And so you can go ahead and see what's going to be covered in Level C. We have numeration, which concepts are with our number sense, addition, subtraction, multiplication, problem solving, time and money, measurement, geometry, fractions, data, and simple things with our calculator. And so these are the concepts they're taught and also the quarter they're taught in. So then you can check them off, see where you're at, and keep a record of your progress. In the beginning of every book, there's about 5 pages that really are really helpful to go ahead and read. So how the program's developed, some general thoughts on teaching mathematics, just how the lessons are set up. There's just some gems in these material that's really helpful to read each year. And each year you'll get a little more out of that and say, oh, okay, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so I would just encourage you not to just skip right past that, but go ahead and read these. Okay, there's a table of contents. You can see here. We're going to start off with a review. Okay, so these first 6 lessons here, we're just seeing how to use the Abacus. There's review games and games that are interspersed throughout. Some assessments along the way. And you'll see there's 140 lessons, and we'll end the year with an overall review of what we've learned for the year. Okay, how are the lessons formatted? You can see here your objectives are right up here at the top, and so this is a helpful thing to look at so you know, am I introducing something, am I mastering, what is the goal of today's lesson? Here are the materials you'll need to get out. The activities will be on the left side of the page. Any tips will be on the right side of the page. And this is just going to be, why we're doing it this way, or tips if you have a gifted child, or the research behind it. Just anything extra here. If you're interested, you can look over there. Okay, every day we're going to have a warm-up just to keep going on whatever we've learned before. And so it's usually oral or something quick that we do maybe on a little dry erase board. And so we'll tell you exactly what to say. Here it says ask. And then the answers are in brackets there for you. Okay, so here we're going to step through our activities for the day with any tips on the side. I want you to step on through. If there's a worksheet, then the answers are right here in the lesson book for you. Here's the game that goes along with the concept. And then in conclusion. And the conclusions, they might be a summary of the day's lessons or kind of an extension or expansion of the lesson to just kind of challenge them into a little more higher level thinking. Okay, so the lessons are designed to be taught at the rate of about 1 per day. And so with 180 days in your school year, 140 lessons, there's a little bit of wiggle room where if you did, just life happens, or you need an extra day to maybe we need to play an extra day on those games, and that concept, we needed just an extra day on that. And so there's a little bit of wiggle room in there. The lessons are designed also to be about 30 to 45 minutes each. The card games are the review and practice. The quickest way to short circuit this program is to try to skim through without playing the games. These really are the long worksheets and flashcards. The card games are where you're going to get the great review and practice. Again, there's 140 lessons in the year. We have initial review lessons. There's also enrichment lessons, quarterly assessments, final assessments. Okay, in your child's worksheet book, that's where they'll be keeping a record of their work. They are designed to be done independently. And so you may start part of the worksheet with them, but then when it's time for them to do it, it's really their time to kind of try to think through what they've been doing and have a little bit of that time just independently to try to kind of churn through that and work out the concept for themselves. Math is a written language, and so the worksheets, that is that part of that process. There's almost a worksheet a day in level C. And again, the card games are going to be your main review and practice. One more note on the worksheets. If you notice on the copyright page, let's see, it says the publisher hereby grants permission to reproduce worksheets for a single child's use. So if you have twins or more kids coming after them, you would need to buy a second worksheet, you know, for that child. If you do have several children and a good printer, then the e-workbook can be a great option. And so it's a little bit more, but then you can print it for your whole family, however much you need, or extra copies of something. And so the e-workbook is also an option. Okay, now we've been mentioning games. What's the deal with games? Basically, math games are to math what books are to reading. The games provide an interesting way so that we can have the repetition needed for that automatic response. So as we're learning our multiplication tables, a lot of people will think, well, I learned my multiplication, you know, I taught my child multiplication this year, but you know, they just don't have them down yet. The quickest and most efficient way for your kids to learn their facts is through the games, because in the lessons you're learning the concept, but that practice is going to be through games. And the games are going to give an application for the new information. It's done in a social setting, and it's just a very enjoyable and efficient way to learn our facts. Somebody told me this, it was a good example to think of when we used to have to memorize phone numbers. And so we didn't learn our best friend's phone number by getting out flashcards. We learned it by punching in the number over and over and over again. And so that's the same thing that happens with the games. Basically, 15 minutes of a game equals one worksheet. Now, the games are going to be identified in the lesson as to which one, you know, really works with the concept we're working on. But if you want extra practice and review, or over the summer you're like, you know what, I just want to keep our multiplication tables up, then replay the curriculum games. You know, there's ones that you're going to really like. But then if you're like, you know, I'd like some new games, or I wonder about this one concept, then that card game book that comes in the math set, you can go to the table of contents and just pick out the topic you're interested in. They start from the simplest, and then they get harder for each concept. And so you can find good games in there, or go ahead and give us a call, and we'll see if, or send us an email if you want some suggestions on a certain concept. Okay, also there's a game log in your lesson books as well, or in the worksheet books, I'm sorry. This is what it looks like, and this can be a really useful tool where you can keep a record of the games you've played and who played them on here, and any other notes you would want to make. Okay, now a couple quick notes, and this is just, especially if you're new to the Right Start program, on just the way children are introduced to addition. And so one way to teach addition is by counting. And so since we're also familiar with 1, 2, 3, I'm going to use letters. So for example, let's let A be 1, B be 2, C be 3, all the way down, E will be 5, okay? What's F plus E? All right, I'll help you out. A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, now I need to add E. A, B, C, D, E. Okay, well, you know, a lot of times we want our kids to just start from F, but what happens is they say, okay, here's everything I got. Let's start from the beginning. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. Okay, great. I got K. Then we want them to memorize the facts. This is what it looks like to a child who doesn't understand their quantities and is really shaky on what addition is. If a child who doesn't progress beyond counting for addition is going to flounder later in higher mathematics because they're missing out on the patterns that come in numbers. Okay, and this person is often going to be content at working just by rote. Just tell me what to do. And what that'll happen is they're going to avoid deeper thinking. And it's going to make high school math a lot more difficult. Now, these habits, they might suffice during the primary years, and it's a challenge to learn more difficult mathematics without thinking and understanding. And so we want to go ahead and encourage our kids now to be thinking and understanding what they're doing. So that's just a normal process. So instead of adding by counting, what we want our kids to do is subitize. And this is just a big fancy word for quickly recognizing a quantity without counting. We are just geared this way as humans. Just human babies, even from birth, and even some animals, we've had studies that show they can recognize quantities. Children who subitize perform better in mathematics. And subitizing, recognizing quantities, allows a child to grasp the whole and the elements at the same time. And it seems to be a necessary skill for understanding what the counting process even means. Okay, so what we're going to use is the AL Abacus. This is going to be our tool in seeing the quantities. A lot like when we're learning how to read, we need to know the sounds of the letters. It's the same way here. We need to know the quantities of the numbers. Now, an abacus just means beads on a wire. And so this is one particular abacus. There's all sorts of different abacuses around the world. The AL Abacus actually has two sides, which is kind of neat. And it's going to provide that visual and a tactile manipulative to help our kids develop a mental image for their quantities, strategies, and the mathematical operations that we're going to be teaching. And it's going to promote subitizing. Okay, so let's just look. You know, with our real little ones, when we're starting out, let's see. If we want to enter a quantity, we tell them, show me 3. Yay, okay, there's 3 fingers. Now, can you put 3 on the abacus? Good job, good job. And there's our symbol 3. Okay. Now, show me 5. Oh, it's all the fingers. Show me 5 on the abacus. All the blue beads, and there's our symbol 5. It's very important that our kids understand that this quantity is 5, and this is just a symbol we use to represent 5, so that we don't have to put all of these out. But this is actually what 5 is. And that seems like a small thing to us as adults, but this is huge. If the child does not understand this and is basing everything off the symbols, there's going to be confusion. Okay, and show me 7. Yay! And 7 on the beads. And again, notice that the left hand has 5 and the right hand has 2, and that just mirrors what's on the abacus. It's in the same order, 5 and 2. And our symbol 7. And 10, all of our fingers, all of our beads, and our symbol for 10. Okay, so how would we add on abacus? Okay, with just starting out, 4 and 3 is, and we put them together. Hey, that's 7. I've seen that before. Okay, so what about when we get to bigger numbers? So how about 9 and 5 more? Well, I could take this one, add it there as long as I traded it for one from the bottom. That would be the same amount. Wait, that's 10 and 4. 14. And we can call that complete the strategy. Okay, let's try that again. How about 9 plus 7? Can I trade these? Yeah. Okay, there we go. There's 10 and 6 more, 16. Okay, another strategy or another way of looking at adding numbers that are more than 5 is called the 2-5 strategy. So here we have 8 on the first wire, 6 on the second. So 8 plus 6. Well, okay, before we do anything, can you see how much it is? Yeah, we have 2 5s. We're going to have 10 and 4 more. 14. Okay, let's try that again. 7 plus 5. It's right there. There's no counting, nothing. If you can see these beads, you can see that you have 10 and 2 more is 12. Okay, what about multiplication? How about 6 times 4? Well, if we have 6 taken 4 times, okay, well look, I got 2 groups of 10 there with the blue beads, so there's 10, 20, and 4 more, 24. Okay, how about 5 times 7? Okay, so there's a little more beads here, so let's see, we got 10, 20, 30, oops, 5. Okay, and 7 times 7, okay, this is a little more. By now our kids know 5 times 5 is 25. 35, 45, 49. Okay, how about our 9s? Our 9s are pretty cool. 9 times 3. One way of thinking about this, and that's the cool thing with math, is there's one right answer, but there's a lot of different ways there, is what if we thought about what was on all 3 lines there? There's 30 minus 3 be 27. Okay, so our abacus is going to be the physical manipulative that we need to develop a mental image. And so we're going to start with a real abacus, move towards an imaginary, and finally do our arithmetic mentally. And so with a real abacus, we're going to have a physical abacus in front of the child, and they're physically going to be moving the beads and seeing what the quantities are and how the numbers fit together, and being able to create that memory and create that understanding. Then we're going to move on to an imaginary abacus. And this really has 2 different forms. It can either still be with the physical abacus right in front of the child, and only this time they don't touch it. They just imagine moving the beads over and doing the operations they need to do. The other version is where you don't have an abacus at all, and so either looking down or looking up, they're imagining the abacus with the beads on it, and then physically using their finger, and providing that movement to do whatever operation they are doing. And then finally, mentally, where there's no abacus at all, they see the numbers, do what they need to do with them, and it's all mental. Okay, so for example, if we were just imagining 6 times 4, okay, well, 6 times 3 is, oops, and then 6 times 4 there are 24. Okay. Your teacher's manual will suggest when to consider using a mental abacus. But if your child is struggling or counting, use the abacus, leave it out. So things will probably be going along just fine, and then at some point, you'll notice that there's a concept that for whatever reason your child is having a little more difficulty with, leave the abacus out. This isn't cheating. They're not going to go off to college with it under their arm. Leave it out. They need to have time to build that understanding and that visual memory. So again, if they're struggling, just leave it out. Leave it out while you're playing the games. Again, so that's just their tool as they're learning their operations and their numbers. Okay, along the way, you'll see review and games. There is always 2 versions of these. So sometimes you could use one as a review, and the next day use one as a quiz, or you could assign one as a review, and then if they got pretty much all of them right, maybe they missed one, it was a little mistake, but they understand what they did, or they understand the concept, then you just move on. If there are several that maybe they struggled with, and that's where again you can say, well, that's why we may have 2. You go over it and then let them go ahead and do the second version, just to solidify those concepts. On all of these, the first couple will actually be oral, and then they can do the rest on their own, and leaving you time to play whatever review games that are listed at the bottom of that page. Okay, in level C, you're going to see drawing board lessons. These are so cool. They're going to give us a practical use for our mathematics. So you're going to be using your drawing board, your T-square, your triangles, and it's going to be introducing our kids to other branches of mathematics. Arithmetic is just a very small part of math. We use arithmetic for all sorts of different branches of math, but it's really just the starting point. And so with our drawing board, we can start venturing into some different avenues there. It's going to help our kids to learn geometry informally. And so they're going to be getting used to that vocabulary and thinking in terms of angles and perimeter and area, and giving them just an application for their arithmetic as well. And what's interesting is some kids, it seems like they are able to visualize things in geometry easier than they are with numbers. And so this also helps them to see, okay, there are a lot of different parts to math, not just arithmetic. It also develops coordination, which will improve with practice, and is going to be hugely helpful when they enter high school geometry and are bisecting angles and doing all their constructions. And then if they have any interest in engineering, architecture, interior design, guess what? They still use manual drafting in all of those disciplines in colleges, with large drawing boards and huge T-squares and triangles to do everything by hand first, so that when those college students are introduced to the computer programs, they know what they're doing. And so what your child understanding how a T-square and triangle work is just helping them be prepared for that as well. Okay, corrections. When we find errors, we're going to post them online. So you can find them. There's an error under Resources, Teaching Support. You can come down the page to Corrections and go to the level you're interested in, level C. And then you can look up at top. You'll see May 8th, 2017 was the most recent update. And so if your book, you can look in the copyright page. If it was printed before that, then you may want to look and see if there was an update since your printing date. Otherwise, you're fine. But you can see here is the lesson where the correction was made. This is the date it was changed. And here is the correction or update that was made. Some other website treasures. Under resources, you'll see pre-recorded webinars, which, today's will be out there soon. You can come here, you can find out about first and second edition, how to teach the different levels. Card games, a lot of different card games you can see actually played or explained. Some notes on short division, what on earth are check numbers, geometry. There's all sorts of good webinar information right here. Also under our blog, I would really encourage you to sign up for our blog. Over the summer, two of the ladies wrote just some great blogs about different games, suggestions, and where they would fit and how to play them, and they're written really, really well. Someone else has written some different articles on, okay, what do I do if I have multiple children? What are different ways to structure my time in my day and get the most out of Right Start? Others have written about, okay, I have a struggling learner, and here's some tips. There's specific lessons are addressed in these blogs as well. And so this is a great resource either to find something or just to sign up for to receive regularly. Okay, some quick teaching tips. Your role in teaching math is more questioning than explaining. And so if your child can explain what they're doing, so a lot of times in the lesson book, you'll see things where it says, ask the child how they got that number. And this is just something that's been normal in Right Start. If your child is new to Right Start, that might be a new concept, having to explain what they're doing. You may have heard in homeschool circles things like narration. This is basically what we're doing, only with math. They're going to be explaining what they're doing. When they're doing that, they're making different connections in their brain, and it's becoming theirs. You're also able to see where a misunderstanding might be as well. And you might be surprised with, oh, wow, that is a very cool way of doing that. And so, so your role is really more questioning than explaining. The best motivation for really anything is intrinsic. If it's coming from within, where you have a desire to learn, you have a desire to do your best. And so we want to encourage that. And so external rewards, if you finish this, I'll give you this. That kind of thing can actually undermine intrinsic motivation. And it's critically important that our kids like math. And so we really want to encourage that. Contact us if you have any questions, any problems, any suggestions. We want to hear about them. So you can come to our website. On the back of every single book, you will find phone numbers, email address. Call us, email us, and we'll see what we can do for you. Okay, are there any questions for me today? I'll give you guys a second with the chat box. Okay, so S.E. Cox says, what if your child hates games but loves worksheets? Okay, so that's funny. Is it the interaction that they struggle with? I would probably suggest to still play a round of games, and if they really want another worksheet, you can go print them off. There's a million worksheets online that you can print off practice there, if that's just what they enjoy. The benefit, she dreads the games. Do you know what it is about the game that she's dreading? Okay. The benefit of the game is especially if you play just one round, maybe just one round with you, is you're going to get to see her thinking process. And again, these are times to leave whatever manipulative we've been using, to leave it out as a help. And I would just encourage it, just be a really relaxed on the floor. You know, a floor is a great place to play games. And making sure that we're prepared ahead of time, that we got everything, you know, in order. And we play a game and go on from there. But so I'm not sure if that helps any. Are there any other questions today? Okay. Well, you guys have a great day, and SC Cox, you're welcome to call in as well, or if anybody else has anything, just call us, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.